yesterday or is still on manhunt. That's according to the police. They are seeking to arrest him, and already they have issued a notice urging him to present himself to the nearest police station. We'll be taking a look at that. Even as President William Ruto's cabinet was sworn in on Thursday, and now it is a full in-tray for the 19 cabinet secretaries who have now taken over President William Ruto's Government of National Unity cabinet. But even today, 2 nominees, that is for the AG and the ESC nominee, will be vetted by the Appointments Committee of the National Assembly from 10 a.m. and we'll be bringing you that particular, those particular proceedings live right here on K24. It will be taking place at the Parliament buildings. President William Ruto is on a charm offensive in the Mount Kenya region, facing Mount Kenya for 3 days. Already he was in Embu, and so 2 more days. Today he will be in Kiharu constituency that is led by Ndindi Nyoro. He's also the chair budget committee. It's believed he's a very big, political threat to the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. So we'll be just touching on what that tour in the Mount Kenya is aimed at. Even as the President will also tour Kisii region, that is the Gusii region, next week for 3 days. The President has not been a flying president for the past few weeks since the Gen Z demonstrations began. At the same time, we'll be highlighting on Kawera Mwangaza on the cross. She has been impeached yet again. In fact, 49 MCAs voted in support of the motion, even as 17 MCAs rejected her impeachment, while 3 were absent. And so she will appear before the Senate, which is already on recess. I believe there will be a special sitting to consider the matter. But also this week, something else that happened, key to note, is the Central Bank of Kenya that has now contracted a Germany-based money printer to print new notes for the country. According to the CBK Governor Kamau Thuge, the notes we have are getting old and there is need to have new ones. Talk to us via social media platforms at K24 TV, at Joel Church, as well as SMS and WhatsApp numbers on the bottom of your screens. This morning, I'll be having key guests. That is Honorable James Gakuya. Embakasi North Member of Parliament is also the chair of the Trade Committee of the National Assembly. Cornelius Oduor, Deputy Executive Director, Kenya Human Rights Commission, will be right here. And Morara Omoke, an advocate of the High Court. A conversation that you can't afford to miss. And also, I'll be bringing you the newspaper review from 6:30 to 7 a.m. Let's begin with these stories where police have launched a manhunt for businessman Jimmy Wanjigi, who they want to surrender to authorities. Acting Inspector General of Police Gilbert Masengeli now says that 4 tear gas canisters were recovered from a car at his gate. The businessman, however, claims a political witch hunt. Martin Opio reports.
Thursday evening at the home of businessman Jimmy Wanjigi, police would lay a siege minutes after the businessman is said to have been tear-gassed from the demonstrations within the CBD.
Police have not told us of any other reason. We just believe this is harassment in connection or in light of the protests that have been going on, which today he participated. He went out and went to town, and the way the police have been chasing demonstrators, he also chased and came back home. Yeah.
So apparently they came and followed him.
So they came and followed him with a vehicle, which has been towed away, and we are still to hear what is why the policemen took away that vehicle.
After a few minutes, police would declare the entrance to the gate of Wanjigi as a crime scene as they come through and dusting 2 vehicles at the entrance. Inside the vehicle, tear gas canisters and communication devices would be recovered, with the police towing away the vehicle. His lawyer, Nelson Osiemo, is however disassociating his client from the ownership of the vehicles.
I came late. I don't know what was lined up from the vehicle, but what I can say, that vehicle does not belong to him. So it's the police to tell us where they got that vehicle from, because him was chased and he came back home early. If that vehicle belonged to this compound, the watchman would have opened the gate to allow the vehicle to get in.
While addressing the media this evening at Jogo House, Acting Inspector General of Police confirmed the police operation and the items allegedly recovered from the vehicle.
Today, we intercepted a personal motor vehicle, Brado model KDC 883R in Mudaika, at the residence of Jimmy Wanjigi. In the vehicle, we have recovered 4 tear gas canister, 2 Motorola gadgets, 7 assorted chargers for the pocket phones, and 1 mobile phone. Investigators are on the ground and to ascertain more details.
The police now want Jimmy Wanjigi to surrender to the police.
That has happened there, but still there's 1 motor vehicle that managed to enter the compound and they closed behind it. Our appeal is that he surrenders to the nearest police station whatsoever.
But his son is reading malice and blames it on political warfare. The towed vehicle is currently at a Central Police Station. Wanjigi was in 2017 under 20-hour siege from the police, where police alleged that they were looking for assorted weapons in his Muthaiga home. Martin Opio, K24 TV, Nairobi.
More than 150 people have been arrested and over 30 others injured in Thursday's demonstrations in the heart of Nairobi City. Police used tear gas to disperse groups of youth who were demonstrating while blocking passenger vehicles from entering the city center of Nairobi. According to the Acting Inspector General of Police, Gibson Masengeli, 1 police officer was injured in Nairobi. David Kagina with more.
Police in Nairobi intensified their vigilance with security tightened across all routes leading to the city's central business district to deter protesters ahead of the highly anticipated Nane demonstrations.
Today, minimal skirmishes were witnessed in downtown Nairobi, Kisii, and Migori towns, where attempts by goons to loot property was effectively thwarted by police officers.
From 11 o'clock, chaos erupted in the CBD as police clashed with demonstrators during the August 8th protests. The city center turned into a battleground as tear gas filled the air and running battles ensued. Police officers were seen clearing the area, with businesses closing down and public service vehicles leaving. The situation remained tense for the better part of the day. According to the Acting Inspector General of Police, Gibson Masengeli, over 120 were arrested in relation to the protests in Nairobi.
In Nairobi, where 1 officer was injured, we also arrested a total of 174 suspects. That is 126 in Nairobi, 22 in Kitengela, Rift Valley, 26 at Emali in Makueni County.
K24 has established that more than 30 people were injured today, most sustaining injuries from exploding tear gas canisters, some being clobbered by the police, some got injured while fleeing, and some having respiratory difficulties from the billows of smoke in the city center. We caught up with Philip, alias Generali, as well-wishers brought him to a city hospital to receive treatment.
So ile process ya kupiga kelele, Ruto must go kwa sababu hiyo ndo tulikuja kufanya. Polisi wakakuja wakanigonga canister ya kwanza hapo kwa mguu, kaumia, jamaa wakaniokolea. So kidogo ikachukua like kitu kama 30 minutes. But yenye na believe ilikuwa ni njama. So kuna kakiwete alikuwa kwa kona fulani. Wakarusha tear gas, then ilikuwa live kwa TikTok. Watu wakaniambia okoa huyo jamaa, achana live kwanza. So najua tear gas ni moshi, nikafunga bendera ndio niingie ni okoe. So sikuwa naona kuingia huko ndani, nikakutana na polisi head on. Ndio sasa kanigonga hii ya left, so hii ya left na hii move kabisa.
Journalists covering the demonstrations were not spared either, and when we posed the question of police aggression to the Acting Inspector General, This is what he had to say.
We've had no report of the same, but we'll investigate and find out of the instance.
Many protesters condemned the excessive use of force by the police.
Basically say the police have brought violence to the peaceful protests. And that is uncalled for, unprovoked at the end of the day.
We have a constitution, we have laws, and we have seen how the police are openly violating the constitution, violating the laws with impunity.
Today was anticipated to be the culmination of the Gen Z protest, with the demonstrators demanding greater accountability from the Kenyan government. Whether the Nane protests achieved their goal is debatable. However, fact is, activities were not as usual within Nairobi's CBD on 8th of August 2024. David Kagina, K24, Nairobi.
In a bid to thwart the planned Nane march, the police were forced to barricade major roads to block perceived protesters from accessing the central business district. The law enforcers erected roadblocks on various roads, including Thika and Langata Road. However, as Ian Kitani now reports, in the midst of it all, journalists from MediaMax were roughed up by goons in Githurai.
Nane March. Gen Z protesters were today expected to turn out in large numbers at the Central Business District in a bid to pile more pressure on President William Ruto to vacate office. However, police officers were forced to deploy a different strategy to quell the protest and contain the numbers, having witnessed thousands of protesters participate in the June and July wave of protests. Along Thika Road, the law enforcers erected roadblocks in Githurai, with public service vehicles not allowed to make their way to the Central Business District.
Lazima tuende hiyo CBD. Mbona wazuie magari? Watu wanapoteza biashara. Sisi hatuna shida na mtu yote ambaye anafanya biashara.
The PSVs were forced to go back to the routes they came from. Most of the passengers forced to alight and find alternative means, with hundreds of youths seen pitching tent along the sides of the road. In our quest to follow up on the happenings across the Githurai area, our crew were accosted by a mob of goons at the Githurai roundabout, making way with several equipments. The incident happened at midday. Elsewhere at Nyerere Road, police officers barricaded the road leading to State House Nairobi, with no one being let through. The presence of police was also seen at the AIC Milimani route of Valley Road, the road leading to State House Nairobi. The situation was the same along Gong Road, the officers inspecting public service vehicles, a roadblock erected along the road leading to Daystar University. It seemingly being the strategy deployed to thwart protesters from accessing the CBD. There was a roadblock along Langata Road, just before Langata Barracks. And just like Thika Road, only personal cars were let through. Ian Kitani, K24 TV, Nairobi.
Still in the same breath, Kenyans in several parts of the country marched the streets to protest against President William Ruto-led administration in a fresh round of anti-government protests dubbed Nane March in line with the August 8th date. The protest is a continuation of the demos witnessed in the previous 2 months, which began over increased taxation in the now scrapped Finance Bill 2024. Gertrude Burgay reports.
These were the scenes on the streets of Mombasa earlier this morning. Police were deployed at various points in town, armed to quell the Gen Z-led demonstrations. The road linking Changamwe and Mombasa town was barricaded with roadblocks and stops as police conducted such exercises on commuters using public transport. A section of Gen Zs who availed themselves for the Nane march today decried the undermining of their rights to picket by the police, even as they vowed not to relent despite brutality from the police.
Kumekuwa na heavy presence of police officers. Ukiingia Kibarani wameweka barrier pale, watu wanapeksenyiwa, wanaangalia matatu, watu wanashukishwa. Kwa hivyo polisi wako wengi katika mji. Vile vile nimezunguka kuangalia hapa na pale, maduka mingi yamefungwa na kuna ile hali ya kama tension, watu hawajui kutatokea nini. Lakini sote 9-10 tunasema kuwa watu kuandamana ni haki yao kwa katiba, bora kusiwe na fujo, bora kusiwe na kuibiana, bora kusiwe na vurugu. Kwa hivyo ni article 37 inaruhusu watu kufanya picketing in peaceful. Kwa hivyo
the police are caught in a surprise, so they do not want to be caught in this surprise. That's why they are still in the streets trying to quell the situation.
Elsewhere, a cat-and-mouse running battles between police officers and Kitengela anti-government protesters ensued in the afternoon, raising tension in the town that had earlier witnessed calm. Officers were forced to lob tear gas severally as unrelenting youths tried to barricade the Nairobi-Namanga road. Kisumu today witnessed a peculiar relative calm after the much-anticipated pro-governance protest by the Gen Z failed to kick off. Most businesses were open, but with a low traffic of people within the CBD. The police kept patrolling the streets to quell any possibility of protest gatherings.
Sababu kuu ni moja, unajua wakati Gen Z walianza kuandamana, walikuwa nasema kuna vitu walikuwa nataka. Hizo mambo yote ambayo walikuwa nataka ni almost 60% of them zimetekelezwa. So tunaona at least huyo rais anajaribu kufanya vile wanataka. Na hiyo ndio tulikuwa nataka. Kama anaweza kufanya vile wananchi wanataka, tunawacha maandamano. Ndio sababu tumeona at least sasa tuwache, tumpatie nafasi pia afanye kazi, ayatekeleze yale ambayo watu walikuwa nataka.
Gertrude Burgay, K24 Nairobi.
Business owners in Nairobi have expressed their growing frustration with the ongoing Gen Z-led demonstrations that have persisted for nearly 2 months. The protests, which were initially peaceful, have become increasingly disruptive, leading to significant financial losses for entrepreneurs who are not only grappling with a decline in customers, but also facing the threat of looting, forcing many to close their shops. Here now is Ben Kirira with more details.
Kirinyaga Road, the usually crowded street known for its thriving trade in car parts and busy mechanics, was almost deserted. As we move further down to Kariakor, we meet Robert Gitonga, a businessman who specializes in transporting parcels between Nairobi and Meru. Today, however, Robert was unable to work.
Hatuwezi pata mizigo ya kununua kwa sababu ya kubeba, kwa sababu wale watu ambao wananunua mizigo ndio tubebe hawako, na pia wale wangekuja kununua mizigo pia ili tuweze kubeba pia hawajakuja, so ni kama wanaogopa maandamano.
Frederick Othiambo, a mechanic in Kariakor, echoes Robert's sentiments, noting a sharp decline in business due to the demonstrations.
Kwa leo na imekuwa chini juu umejua sasa watu wengi hawawezi leta kazi kulingana na watu wengi kama magari wameweka kwa maparking.
Sasa ni mwendo wa saa 6 na watu wanafunga virago vyao, wanaogopa kunyang'anywa. Uwe customer, uwe mfanyabiashara, wakati askari wamekuja ni kutupa tear gas ovyo ovyo na kutupa risasi ovyo ovyo.
David Mbogwa, a bus driver in Nairobi, also expressed his frustration, revealing how the demonstrations have drastically reduced his daily earnings.
Hii gari nafaa iweke kama ngiri 6 mchana. Ili hali wakati kama wa leo nalilia tu nipate pesa kidogo ya kunisimamia insurance ama mguu. Upande kama wasako hakuna. Leo nitaenda sikudi kama 3 na ninafaa niende sikudi 7.
Kuna watu wako na madeni na wanapasiwa mwisho wa mwezi walipe hizo deni. Hii mambo ikiendelea namna hiyo ni kuonekana ya kwamba kuna watu wataanza kuchotwa.
On Ronald Ngala Street, business owners took matters into their own hands, arming themselves with canes to protect their shops from looters disguised as protesters. This measure appeared effective as the demonstrators confined their activities to the tarmac.
Nimekuja kuchunga hizi manduka, wakivunja manduka leo kama hawa hizi watu wakidemonstrate sawa, lakini kuna wengine ndani wa hizi wanaiba mpaka manduka. Kesho wakivuka manduka wakivunja, tutafanya kazi wapi?
The business community is now urging both the government and the protest leaders to engage in dialogue and find a resolution that will allow them to resume their livelihoods without fear.
Tungeomba upande wa serikali, baada waadhiriwa agency wakae chini waongee.
All we ask is new governance and new good works. Ndio hadi kila mtu upande wetu waendelee kufanya kazi, and sisi tukiumia hizo taxes tutalipa aje.
Business owners in Nairobi's Central Business District have expressed their concerns that the ongoing demonstrations are causing more harm than good. Many have had to keep their shops closed, worsening the already challenging economic times. Ben Kirera, K24, Nairobi.
Meanwhile, Gen Z protesters have pledged to persist in their efforts to hold the government accountable, describing it as incompetent and corrupt. Despite the setbacks in Thursday's demonstrations, where the objective of the march into State House was not met, the resolve among the youth remains strong. They are determined to continue pushing for transparency and accountability from the administration. Bentura Komboka reports.
In a now seemingly fizzling out anti-government protest that was intended to hold the government into account on its incompetence, corruption and wastage of resources, the youths have vowed to continue with the push against President William Ruto's administration.
We've given too much audience to protesters out here who are pushing for reform, while in the first place we should have been pushing for a reform, a regime change.
The Nane Nane protest, despite not achieving its goal of marching to State House, has made an impact by sending a message of dissatisfaction with the current government.
And it hasn't backfired because I've been here since early in the morning and the roads were empty. A lot of businesses have closed. The fact that that happened is a sign that even if they did not allow us to gather and protest and express our rage the way we wanted to, that's a sign that the protests happened.
Initially, there was an announcement by some youth groups that this will be the last demonstrations. However, following a lower than expected turnout, they have since reversed this stance, stating that the protest will continue until the government is held accountable for its actions.
There as much as tomorrow Kesha too, but this is the beginning of a revolution. It doesn't have to be initially at we achieve something at one go. We need to take steps. I feel as Kenyan youths, we should go back to the drawing board and re-strategize.
The fact that we haven't been allowed to gather in the numbers that we intended to, I think people will still try to continue until we get to the point where we feel that we have been heard.
The Nane Nane protest comes in the backdrop of the Ruto-Raila deal, which many believe was intended to calm the unrest. A strategy that now seems to have worked, as political leaders are now encouraging the youths to give the new administration time to implement changes following the formation of a broad-based government.
Let us also give His Excellency the President time to work. He was elected for 5 years. If you do not like him, please strategize how you will remove him through the constitutional means in 2027. Beat him at the ballot. That is what I also wanted to say. The CSS to do their work, members of parliament to do their work, the president to be given time to do his work. If he fails, we go that route constitutionally. Because if we go the anarchy way, you have seen Khartoum, you've seen Somalia. Even as an opposition member of parliament, I wouldn't want us to go that way.
The protests have been ongoing since June and have affected business operations in major towns across the country. Bentura Kwamboka, K24, Nairobi.
Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi on Thursday reported to the National Treasury shortly after he was sworn in at State House in Nairobi during his exit speech in Parliament on Wednesday. Mbadi detailed the strategies he planned to implement to strengthen the country's economy, which is one of the grievances fueling the current protests in the country. Muriel Adhiambo highlights some of the issues Mbadi will have to address as he takes as he takes the reins at the Ministry of Finance.
Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi was received at the National Treasury by Principal Secretary Chris Kiptoo and other officials shortly after he took his oath of office at State House in Nairobi today.
I, John Mbadi Ngongo, being appointed a Cabinet Secretary of Kenya.
The former ODM chairman is one of the opposition politicians who oppose the tax increases under the rejected 2024 Finance Bill and the annulled 2023 Finance Act.
I propose to salvage these proposals.
But during his exit speech in Parliament yesterday, Mbadi announced that he would salvage some of the non-contentious clauses of the bill, which he claims are beneficial to the country.
Additionally, the bill was that was also amended by the House Committee, or proposed for amendment, to extend the tax amnesty program as was contained in Section 37E of the Tax Procedures Act for a further 1 year. This is a quick win for both the taxpayer and the government. The Committee on Finance and National Planning had proposed amendments to make ETIMs workable for small-scale farmers and businesses. We have opportunity to leverage on this good idea.
For several years now, Kenya's economy has been plagued by excessive debt, missed revenue targets, and a rising cost of living. Mbadi has recommended reforms within the Kenya Revenue Authority and its revenue collection systems to reduce leakages.
There should be a distinction between the role of the chairperson of the board as a whole, and the Commissioner General as the CEO and the management officers of KRA.
The CS has also recommended the publication of a debt register every year to ensure transparency and a restructuring of the country's debt payments. He has also proposed measures to strengthen the business environment to widen the tax base.
We must protect the goose that lays the golden egg as we find other geese to lay more eggs. Honorable Speaker, I am also aware that there have been concerns relating to the difficulty of doing business in this country. I intend to work with the Planning Department and other government departments and all the relevant stakeholders to review data and legislation with a view to enhancing the ease of doing business in Kenya.
Mbadi is now faced with the urgent task of increasing Kenya's revenue without increasing the tax burden to allow the country to meet its debt obligations and spur development.
I am convinced that if we manage our debt and the application of Article 223 of the Constitution, we will have better balanced budgets. We may not need to overtax because we will have reduced the expenditure side of the budget, and this article will not be misused during my tenure at the National Treasury.
Muriel Adhiambo, K24 TV, Nairobi.
And as promised, being on a Friday, we will be reviewing how the week has been like. And I'll be joined by very key guests after this short commercial break. That is Cornelius Oduor, Deputy Executive Director, Kenya Human Rights Commission, and as well Honorable James Gakuya, Embakasi North Member of Parliament. Morara Omoke, an advocate who was set to join us in studio, has, due to unavoidable circumstances, will not make it, but we'll try to reach him via a phone link. Keep the conversation going via social media platforms at K24 TV, at Joel Church, as well on our SMS and WhatsApp numbers on the bottom of your screens. When we come back, we'll be reviewing what is on our dailies this morning. Stay tuned.